Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking you on a journey through ancient Indian philosophy and spirituality. With a deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah.
you shared a fascinating lecture with us, and we're excited to explore its insights and see how they might resonate with you today.
Yeah, it's a rich text, and this lecture specifically dives into the first chapter, which sets the scene for the rest of the Gita's teachings on happiness, duty, and the nature of reality.
Okay, so before we get into those big ideas, can we set the stage a little bit? I understand that the Bhagavad Gita is part of a larger epic, the Mahabharata. What's the context here?
So imagine a battlefield, Kurukshetra, where two sides of a royal family are about to clash in a devastating war. On one side, we have the Pandavas, the rightful heirs to the throne. On the other, their cousins, the Kauravas, who have unjustly seized power.
Wow, talk about family drama. And this is where our main character, Arjuna, comes in.
Exactly. Arjuna is one of the Pandava brothers and a skilled warrior. But the twist is, he's facing his own relatives and teachers on the opposing side. Can you imagine that internal conflict?
It's making me sweat just thinking about it. Choosing sides at Thanksgiving is hard enough.
Yeah.
But this is war. So what's going through Arjuna's mind as he's looking across this battlefield?
The lecture really highlights Arjuna's despair. He sees his grandfather, Bhishma, his beloved teacher, Drona, all ready to fight him. He describes feeling physically ill, his body trembling, his skin burning, his bow slipping from his hand.
That's intense. It sounds like he's having a total meltdown. I can see how this lecture uses this scene to set up the big questions of the Bhagavad Gita.
Exactly. The lecturer emphasizes that this is a metaphor for the internal battles we all face. Duty versus desire, right versus wrong. And the search for happiness amidst suffering. It's like, what do you do when everything you value is on the line and there are no easy answers?
That definitely resonates with me. It feels so relatable, even though it's set in this ancient epic. So how does Arjuna's dilemma lead into the deeper teachings of the Gita?
Well, the lecturer dives into this idea that everyone wants to be happy, but we often make mistakes in how we seek that happiness.
So how does the Bhagavad Gita offer a different path?
The lecture really emphasizes the importance of self-knowledge. The Gita, drawing upon the wisdom of the Upanishads, speaks about the eternal soul, the true self, which is distinct from the physical body. True happiness, according to the Gita, comes from understanding this self and its connection to the supreme soul, the Sikho, the divine.
So it's about looking inward rather than outward, understanding who we are at our core.
Exactly. And to do this, it's important to understand the concept of parampara, which the lecture also touches upon.
Parambar. That's a new one for me. What does that mean?
It refers to the lineage of spiritual masters and disciples, like a chain of transmission of knowledge through the generations. The idea is that these teachings are passed down from teacher to student, ensuring the purity and potency of the wisdom.
So it's about finding authentic sources and guidance on this path of self-discovery. You can't just pick up the Bhagavad Gita and expect to grasp all its nuances on your own.
It's more like learning a complex skill. You need a qualified teacher to guide you, point out the pitfalls, and help you really internalize the teachings. The lecture emphasizes that parampara plays a vital role in keeping this wisdom alive and accessible.
That makes sense. It's like having a mentor to guide you on this journey. So what else does this lecture highlight about the Bhagavad Gita's core teachings?
One of the central concepts is dharma, often translated as righteous duty or right conduct, but it goes much deeper than following rules and rituals.
Okay, so what is the deeper meaning of dharma in the context of the Bhagavad Gita?
The Gita says dharma is about aligning your actions with your true nature and purpose. It's about understanding who you are at your core and acting in accordance with that. And ultimately, this path leads to liberation, freedom from the cycle of birth and death.
Whoa, that's a pretty big claim.
Yeah.
So it's not just about being a good person. It's about aligning yourself with a cosmic purpose and achieving liberation.
Exactly. And to understand that liberation, the Gita introduces this concept called pavarga, which describes the cycle of suffering we experience in the material world.
Pavarga, okay, I'm ready to dive into that. Break it down for me. What exactly is this cycle of suffering?
Pavarga is broken down into 4 parts. First, there's parishrama, which is all the hard work and striving we do. Think about all the hours you put in, the deadlines, the constant pressure to achieve.
I can definitely relate to that. The hustle is real. What's the next part of the cycle?
Next comes vina, which represents exhaustion. All that hard work leads to burnout, right? You're depleted, running on fumes, just trying to keep up.
Oh, yes.
Ugh.
I know that feeling all too well. So we work hard, we get burned out. What comes after that?
Then comes bandhan, which is attachment. We cling to the results of our work, the things we acquire, the relationships we build, the status we achieve. But the Gita would say this attachment is a trap.
I see where this is going. We get attached, and then?
Then comes paya, which is fear. The constant worry about losing what we've gained. Fear of failure, fear of change, fear of the unknown. And the lecture points out that this cycle ultimately culminates in death, which just brings us back to the beginning. Rebirth, more striving, more exhaustion, and so on.
Wow, it's like a hamster wheel of suffering. And the Bhagavad Gita is offering a way to break free from this cycle.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Arjuna. Remember, he's frozen on the battlefield, overwhelmed by this very human dilemma. He sees the Pavarga playing out before his very eyes, the endless cycle of war and suffering, and he doesn't want to participate anymore.
So he's questioning his dharma as a warrior.
He is. He lists all the reasons why he shouldn't fight. He doesn't want to kill his own relatives. He talks about the sin of killing, the destruction of family traditions, and the negative consequences for society as a whole.
That's a powerful statement. He's grappling with the moral weight of his actions, the big picture consequences.
And this is where his surrender to Krishna becomes so significant. He literally asks Krishna to drive his chariot between the two armies so he can see who he has to fight. But this is also symbolic of a deeper surrender to a higher power, a willingness to let go of his own limited understanding and trust in something greater.
Okay, so we've got this incredible setup. The epic battlefield, Arjuna's dilemma, the moth analogy, and the cycle of suffering. I'm hooked. What happens next? How does Krishna respond to Arjuna's doubts and fears?
That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll uncover the wisdom that Krishna reveals to Arjuna and how it can help us navigate our own battles, both internal and external.
I can't wait. And to our listener, we hope you're as fascinated by these ancient teachings as we are. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into the heart of the Bhagavad Gita and uncover its timeless wisdom.